Hello and welcome to Simply Made by Erin, my crochet channel. I'm so excited to get back into fall, and today we're making these cute pumpkins. This is called the One Stitch Adjustable Pumpkin. It is made with primarily only one stitch, and the pumpkins are fully adjustable to any size you want using super bulky yarn or 2 strands of bulky size 5 yarn held together. So for these pumpkins, all you'll need is an 8mm crochet hook. This is an L 8mm, a tapestry needle to weave your ends in. I always talk about how much I love this blunt tip needle. It doesn't snag on the fabric. It works well with thicker yarns. Scissors. Flexible measuring tape is really helpful on these, not only to check your gauge, but since it's fully adjustable, we're going to be going by measurements as well. So you want one of those, and then a little bit of Poly-Fil to stuff your pumpkins, and then any kind of stems you want. These really skinny little stems I purchased on Amazon. They're all clean and ready to go. Very handy. These bigger sticks I found laying around outside. I haven't glued that on yet. I find laying around outside. I just scrub them down really good and let them air dry. You can also pop them in the oven at a very low temperature, and that will kill off any little bugs or critters you have inside. So I find those laying around. There's so many things you can use. A wine cork, you can crochet a stem, anything you want to do. And then any kind of embellishments that you like. I get these leaves and these little tags from a shop on Etsy. I'll link that below. And let me show you. I haven't attached these yet. The leaves come like this, and you can either use some twine to tie them on, or you can just hot glue that right on like that and then cover the holes with the stem. So you'll also need a hot glue gun. It's optional, but you'll most likely need that to glue your stem and leaves and embellishments in place. Okay, and today, because this yarn seems to show the texture the best, I think we're gonna be using this for the demo today. And it is Lion Brand yarn, Cover Story Lazy Days Thick and Quick. It's a tube style yarn that is 100% polyester, size 6, super bulky, and this is the color mustard. I tried tons of different yarns, I think 7 total, and they all give a very different look. This was Woolly's Thick and Quick. I tried According. This one was one of my favorites. It was a wool roving yarn. Do you see how much different that texture changed by using that wool roving? And then this was a cotton. And then I also used a ribbon yarn. So really you can use anything you want. I'm gonna get all set up, and we're gonna make one that is this size today. This size is in the pattern, but I'm gonna talk more about how to make it adjustable once we start making it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get set up, and I'll meet you back here in just a minute. Okay, so we are going to work on the size small, and I have 2 different size smalls listed in the pattern, and that's the only size I have listed. And then I have instructions to make it any size you want. I just wanted to put the basics of one size so you know exactly what to do. So the pattern uses the half double crochet slip stitch. And what I love about this stitch is you can get a very different look by switching, working into both loops, back loop, front loop, and alternating that. So if you can see, this one has like little V's going down right there. This was worked in the back loops only on each row. Okay, if you see the difference, see how much chunkier this one is. It's almost like braided, and it doesn't have those pronounced V's. This one was alternating between front loop and both loops. So it gives a very different look. I created a little swatch because you can see it much better when the swatch is laying flat. So do you see the difference? These have those little V's, and that's kind of that chunky, like braided look, and then flatter on that side. So this is alternating between front loop and then both loops, and this one is worked in back loop only for each row. Okay, and you can do other things. The pattern specifically focuses on these two styles, but you can switch it up. You can do back loop, front loop, back loop, both loops, anything you want. Everything turns out slightly different. So I want to show you on this one, the front loop and then both loops looks quite different on the back side. But this one where we worked in the back loops only on each row is pretty much identical on the back side. So that's another thing. If you happen to like the way this looks, you could flip the tube around and use that side if you wanted. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna use this yarn because it's easiest to see, and I'm gonna do this one, the front loop, both loops alternative. Okay, so this is worked in a long rectangle and then cinched together on each end to form the round pumpkin. So you want a beginning tail about 12 inches long. We need to cinch the end closed, so you want to make sure you give enough room. I usually do half of an arm's length to measure about 12 inches. And it's always better to have more than less, just in case. Okay, so then we create a slip knot. Okay, insert your hook into the loop. And this row you want to work extremely loosely, and you want to do 9 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do you see how loose I was? This is where we're going to seam things together, and if it's too tight, the seam becomes quite noticeable. So definitely make that really loose. If you want to make the pumpkin larger, you can do as many chains as you want. Okay, now we are going to do a half double crochet slip stitch into the second chain from the hook into that back hump. So the second chain from the hook would be, here's 1 and here's 2. This would be the front loop, this is the back loop. If you turn your chain slightly, you find that little back hump. Do you see those little bumps? That's what we're going to work into. Okay. So you count 1, 2, turn it and find that back hump. And then a half double crochet, slip stitch, you yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, and then you pull through the 2 loops on your hook. So it's basically the same as a regular slip stitch, but you have the yarn overs. Okay, so again, yarn over, insert your hook into that next back hump, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the 2 loops on your hook. You want to work this loosely. So let me show you. Yarn over, insert your hook into that next back hump, yarn over, pull up a loop. When I pull up a loop, I elongate it to where everything is about the same length on my hook. Like, you don't want to pull tight like that. You want to elongate it to where it's about the same height and your hook is kind of like horizontal, not pointing down. So just elongate it and then pull through those 2 loops. Okay, and you just keep doing that all the way across. Oops, let me redo that one. And you'll have 8 total stitches, or as many as you decided to do. Okay. Don't forget that last stitch. Okay. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Then we chain 1 and turn. So our next row, row 2, we're going to be working in the front loops only. So this is going to be the right side. So row 1 is the wrong side, row 2 is the right side of the work. So on the right side of this one, you'll always be working in the front loops, and on the wrong side, you'll always be working in both loops. So again, you yarn over, insert your hook in the front loop of that first stitch. Let me show you the difference between the front and loop. So on this stitch, you have to kind of turn when you get to the next row. This right there is the front loop, and that's the back loop. Make sure you don't mistake this as the front and that as the back. You have to kind of like turn it towards you to find the front and back loop. Okay. So yarn over, insert your hook into that front loop, pull up a loop, and pull through the 2 loops on hook. Okay, you just keep going all the way across for a total of 8 stitches. Okay, I'm to my last stitch. If you have trouble figuring out what the first and last stitch of each row is, you can mark it with a stitch marker. Sometimes that last stitch is kind of hard to see. And sometimes it's hard to tell the front and back loop. Okay. There you go. Chain 1 and turn. I always turn the work away from me like that in a counterclockwise direction. Some people turn clockwise. I always do counterclockwise because I feel like it makes the little bumps on the sides a little smaller. Okay, so for row 3, we work under both loops. So again, you kind of turn it slightly and work under both of these loops. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, and pull through 2 loops. Okay, and you do that all the way across. Till you get to 8 stitches. Okay, and then all you do is you alternate between row 2 and row 3 until you get your desired length. For the size small that I have listed in the pattern, I do 27 rows. So you can make as many rows as you want to get to any size you want, but you want to make sure that you end on an odd number of rows so that you have a tail at the same end. I'm going to go ahead and finish that up, and I'll show you a little bit more about what I'm doing. Okay, I just finished row 27, and this is what the finished rectangle looks like. Do you see these pretty braids? And it creates kind of some natural ribbing. If you wanted the one that had the more pronounced V's, you follow it exactly, but you work in the back loops only on each row. So like I said, you want to definitely end with an odd number of rows. So if you add or subtract to the amount of rows, just make sure it's odd. You know you're on an odd number if the beginning tail and the ending tail are on the same side as the rectangle. Okay, so in the written instructions, I give some basic instructions on how to create a nice classic round pumpkin like this versus a taller, skinnier pumpkin like this. Let me show you a bigger one. So here's another tall, skinny one. I just started with more beginning chains to get that look. Okay, so the basic rule of thumb is for the nice classic round pumpkin, the length of your rectangle should be about 3 times the height of the rectangle. So this is the height, and that will create the height of the pumpkin. The length of the rectangle creates the circumference of the pumpkin. So for this one, this is the classic round, and the height is about 4 inches. 4 times 3 is 12, and we're right about 12. It can be off slightly. You can see this is slightly under 12. That's just kind of a general rule of thumb. And then for the tall, skinny size, you want the length to be about 1.5 times the height. So for this one, our height is 4, so we'd want the length only to be about 6. So we would have only done enough rows to get to 6. And the piece for that tall skinny one, the length of the piece for that tall skinny one is going to be a lot shorter. So it would have looked something more like that. But again, you can add as many rows as you want. If you don't want to use my basic measurements, you can create whatever shape you want. Okay, so now that you have your rectangle the size that you want, we are going to finish off by joining the foundation chain and the last row that you just made. Okay, so with the piece right side facing, so you know it's right side facing. On this stitch, you can tell which one is right side. This is what the back side looks like, totally different. But right side facing, your foundation chain will be to the top right and your working yarn will be to the top left. Okay, so then you fold the right side over on top so that the right side facing is now inside, just like that. Okay, and then we're just gonna join the two sides together with a slip stitch. Okay, so this is how I do my first slip stitch. I put my hook through that very first stitch. You wanna go into both loops. Then I put it in the hook or the loop that's my working yarn, and then I pull through and create my first slip stitch just like that. Okay, then you go over to the next stitch. You're gonna work under both loops of the foundation chain and both loops of that last row you completed. If you did the other stitch where you did all working under back loops only, then you want to work under both loops of the foundation chain and the back loop only of that last row. So this one, it would be like that under all the loops. If you were working under the back loop only, you'd skip that front loop and go like that before you completed your slip stitch. But we're working under both loops. So just like that, you want to work these slip stitches loosely. So pull it up, make it even on your hook. Again, don't pull tight like that. You want it nice and loose before you pull that loop through. Okay, and then you just go all the way across, making sure everything's lined up nice and even. You will have a total of 8 slip stitches. Okay, so once the entire piece is joined, you leave another long tail end about 12 inches. Go ahead and fasten off. And then you can pull this through like this, like just pull the end all the way through, or you can put it under this loop to kind of help secure it a little bit more. Okay, and so that working yarn, we're going to put that on a tapestry needle and weave around these ends to cinch the bottom closed. So this is going to be the bottom. Okay, so you don't need to go under every single loop to cinch it closed. I usually go under, do you see these little top loops right here? That's usually where I go under. If you wanted, you could go under these loops. I try to stick to the same loop on each row end so that I know I'm working pretty evenly. You definitely don't want to go under each loop because it makes the bottom, when you cinch it, really bulky. So I'm going to go under there first, here, here, and you just kind of weave and pull as you go. Weave the needle in and then pull to start cinching it closed. Okay, the wrong side should still be facing you. We're going to turn it right side out in a minute. Okay, so I'm back to the beginning. I always like to go under a few of those beginning loops again, and it just helps create a more secure circle and it pulls it in a little bit better. So that's what it looks like. And then when you pull it closed, see how nice that looks? And I just go in under those loops. Just keep going until you can get that circle closed. If you're working with some of the cotton or roving yarn that I suggest in the pattern, be really careful when you pull because it breaks super easy. I try not to pull at all. I try to just weave the tails in and get that circle closed without even pulling because it breaks. But I love it so much that I continue to use it and hope that it doesn't break. But anyway, just keep weaving that in until you get that circle nice and tight. And then you just want to finish weaving your end in. And once you feel like it's pretty nice and secure, you can go ahead and cut that off. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing to the top. So go ahead and turn the piece right side facing out. That's what the bottom will look like. This is what we have going on. And then that beginning tail, we do the same exact thing too. So if you want, you can put the filling in now, but I'm gonna go ahead and start my needle first before I do that. So I'm gonna go there. Same thing, just kind of find those little top loops. The beginning one is not as pronounced, so just kind of find the best ones you can to work under. It's pretty forgiving and it doesn't really show very much once we get a stem and everything on, so you don't have to worry about it too much. But before you pull it too tight, make sure you put the Poly-Fil in. Okay, so it's really simple. See, we're back to the beginning and the loop doesn't look as pronounced here, so I'm just gonna go right here, right there again, and then again we're back to the beginning and I'm going under those same loops again a few times. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and put the Poly-Fil in. So the trick when you're stuffing pumpkins is you want enough stuffing to where they're firm, but you don't want so much to where the yarn is completely stretching out and you're seeing big holes and gaps. So after you stuff a few, you'll get the hang of it. I think we need a little bit more. I think that looks pretty good. You can go ahead and cinch the top closed and kind of see. I think I need just a little bit more. Kind of push it out, see how you're doing. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so about like that. I forgot to show you the seam. The seam is right here. So it's not 100% invisible with this one. It's a lot more invisible when you do the back loop only, but it's pretty good. And that's why it's important to work those slip stitches nice and loose so this right here doesn't get too tight. But it looks pretty good. Okay, so once you have that done, like I said, I go back under these same loops again to tighten that circle and make sure it stays in place a little bit more. Okay, and then you can leave a little hole here for the stem. Let me find one. So if you're using a big stem, you can kind of place it in there or use your finger to hold that hole in place before you need to put a stem in. If you're using one of the smaller ones, you can make it a lot tighter. You can glue it in or just, sometimes they'll stay, but I think it's better if you glue it in. Okay, so once you have that about the size you want, then you just secure that closed a little bit more, and then you can keep weaving it in and out until it's nice and tight, and then cut and weave the ends in. If you want the pumpkin to kind of have an indent in the center like that, then all you need to do is put your needle through the top center. You could go here. I like to go kind of on the side, push it back down to the bottom. I go a little bit off-centered. Okay, and then I go off-centered again and push it back up, just like that. And then pull as tight as you want. Make sure you still got that circle. And then you can finish weaving it. If you feel like you need to do it one more time, you can. Sometimes it works doing it once, and sometimes you need to do it twice to get a nice little indent. I think the indent, creating that little indent, finishes it off a little bit better. It makes it look more like a pumpkin. When they are too round, they start looking more like an apple. But anyway, that's all you do. And then I just finish weaving back and forth until it feels nice and secure. Kind of go up the sides here, maybe down at the bottom where the circle's really tight here. And then you can go back and forth to get it even tighter. And then just fasten the end off. Okay, and then just kind of give it a good shaping. And there you have that little pumpkin. You can put your stem in. I don't know if I left enough room to put this one in, but I can glue it on later. Okay, you can add the little leaves if you want to adorn them. Put some little bows with ribbon, however you want. You can also stack them. Here's a cotton pumpkin I made, and I thought this one looked really cute stacked. I have another video on YouTube and a tutorial on my blog showing how I stack my pumpkins and get them nice and secure using twine. This one was Bernat Maker 2 strands held together. I thought that one turned out pretty cute. Anyway, that's it. Like always, the written pattern is on my blog and it will be linked below. The blog post has all the details on sizing, all the multiple yarns I used, and there's details in the YouTube caption below as well. Let me know if you have any questions and have a great day.